Hey, I've just collected the last 6 cameras and I've got about another 5 at home and another 10 or so to actually go through that I've loaded up. Haven't spoken to you for a while, but we've been busy doing other things, and the cameras have been out for about 6 months now, so maybe 7 months with some of them. Some of them went out in August, some in September, so they've had a good chance to record stuff. We've already had one really interesting photo of a 4-legged animal that looks like it's got a backward facing pouch with a little face sticking out. And lots of other interesting shots of quolls and devils and all the usual candidates. There's actually 3 photos of that unusual animal, but it's moving away from the camera, so we might put a GIF in here of that. Anyway, it's been a while, so a bit to catch up on. Got an interesting video from South Australia of what looks like a black thylacine in an area in the Adelaide Hills where I've had reports of black thylacines before in the last 5 or so years. And also further north in South Australia we get reports of black thylacines too. So a bit happening behind the scenes, and Jess and I are just out here at the moment just before sunset by an old creek here, and going to head back and start loading these ones up and see if we got lucky again, and we'll chat a bit more to you throughout the video. But wait, stop the press. What have we got here? What have we got here? Here we have an animal with a really broad set of shoulders on it. And it would appear that I can see 4 toes on that back left foot. We should take a closer look perhaps. What is this animal? It's got extremely short back feet, hocks as they are called traditionally, and you can clearly see 4 toes on that back left foot. Now, to have short feet, 4 toes on that back feet, and look, you can see front paws coming through there as well in the photo. That's the sole of the front feet. Initially I thought that was a pouch, but I'm convinced that that is the front feet of this 4-legged animal. Wallabies and kangaroos do not have 4 toes on their back feet. For those of you that are going to scream paddy melon, this is a quadruped. Spotted myself a couple of wombats. happily out during the day having a munch. Not too fussed. There's another one. Just over there. That one looks like it's got a bit of mange. Poor thing. This one here looks alright. Parks are doing their job. They might be down here putting some stuff on the warrens to get rid of them. Get rid of the mange. Never mind. Jess is onto it. Should stay in the car. Dog's a legend.
I knew you could do it. Let's go as well.
You're a star, Jess. You know that? You are a star. You belong on TV. You could make us really rich.
Do they still do funniest home videos?
They do. Push her off.
No!
And hang on to the lead.
No!
See what happens. No, it's all YouTube's taken over programs like that on TV.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a dumbass video channel. You gotta go, even with that heavy chain on it. She's like, nah, get fucked.
Yeah.
I'm climbing the fucking tree, yeah? I'm possuming out here. I'm gonna fall, I'm gonna get hung, it might hurt, but only for a few seconds. Dad will save me somehow. He'll pick me up and I'll be fine because I've got a great sense of balance.
How are you going to turn around, silly? How are you going to come back?
She can smell something over there and it smells good enough to risk her life for. Oi. Fanny. She's got it on the breeze. Jess. Oh, there it goes. It made a noise. Did you hear that? Did you hear that branch break?
Yeah.
That was something treading on something. Whatever it is she's smelling moved.
Come on. Come back.
Come on. Back this way. How are you going to turn around, doofus? Oh dear. Look at her shaking.
Yeah.
She's not that bloody scared though. She's prepared to have a crack. I'm going to have to go over and get her down, I think. Or you are. From underneath. Help her jump down.
Yeah, she's got to come backwards first because that's just a drop.
Yeah, I don't know if she can walk backwards along that little beam. She might be able to, but...
Otherwise, if she just keeps going straight down, she might be able to run up one of these nails.
Yeah, but there's risk of her running and not coming back too.
Yeah.
If she goes that way.
Come on, darling.
Especially if she gets close to that scent that she's onto. Oi, back it up. Back it up. Come on. Back it up. This way. This way. Come on.
There you go.
Look at you.
Good girl.
What an amazing dog. You're just the stuff of legend, Jess. Look at you. You're like a monkey. Come on, monkey dog.
Come on.
Good girl. Look at you. Come on.
You're not caught.
No, you got to let go of that smell, whatever it is over there. You got to let it go. We're not running today. Come on. This way. Come on. Keep coming. You're not stuck yet, I don't think. She might be... She might be worried it's going to stick and she's going to hang herself. It is stuck, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. She's smart. She knew it was stuck. Come on, back this way. Come on, turn around. Jess, for God's sakes, dog. Look at it. Oh my God, she's so nimble.
Come treat me more often. Yeah. Come on. Come get.
So recently I was contacted by a mate of mine from South Australia who is also a Thylacine witness, and he has a lot of work in the country, so he deals with a lot of people that see a lot of unusual things. Anyway, he contacted me about this video that a mate of his had taken on a property when he was out doing a job. The guy's a pest controller, and him and another colleague were out on a property in the Adelaide Hills and were with the property owner when they witnessed a really unusual black animal off in the distance. It was a pretty bright sunny day, and he didn't want to be interviewed, but he did send me an email with the details of what happened, and this is what he said. G'day Neil, we were at this property to do some pest control work. It's a mate's property and we had just finished. He was showing me where he had seen a couple of snakes, as I'm a snake catcher, and he looked up and said, "You always see them when you don't have a gun." So I looked up and saw what we initially thought was a fox about 150 to 200 metres away. But then as it started moving, its gait caught my eye and we watched for about 15 to 20 seconds talking about it. That's when I got the phone out to start filming. Trying to watch it as I was filming, which is why the camera work is a bit average. I asked if he had any binoculars, but he didn't, unfortunately. We were going to grab the quad bike and go for a spin, but it was taken that morning by the mechanic to fix. My offsider had come up by that time and saw it as well. We watched it for about 2 to 3 minutes, I reckon, before it got too far away. He said he sees foxes go up to this group of trees quite a bit. We didn't hear it make any noises. I have found this stuff really intriguing since our mutual friend has been into it. I hope this gives you something. Cheers. I won't say the guy's name because he wanted to pretty well remain a bit discreet. But anyway, here's the video. It's very interesting. Of course, it's grainy because it's filmed from a long way away with a mobile phone. I've done the best I can with my limited video editing skills. I'll show you the original, then I'll show you the bit that I've zoomed up on to try and get an idea of what it is or what it isn't. But it does appear to be all black. It does have a very unusual gait, reminiscent a bit of Paul Day's animal, I think, from York Peninsula about 8 years ago. And yeah, very interesting bit of video indeed. Not a huge animal, but it does sit there and look, and it does appear to have a bit of a buffy head when it looks at the camera from a distance. So yeah, see what you think, but I thought it was quite interesting actually. It doesn't look like a mangy fox. If it is a fox, it's a melanistic all black fox, and they are quite rare in Australia. They do happen, but not very often. But anyway, have a look, hope you enjoy it, and leave your comments below. So just to finish off, I've got an interview for you here from a chap who worked at Pine Gap in the 1970s and 80s, and he and a whole heap of US military personnel were on a bus coming back from Pine Gap to Alice Springs one night when a Thylacine stopped in the middle of the road, and the bus had to stop, and everyone saw it in the headlights and said, what the hell was that? So yeah, interesting little sighting. Hope you enjoy it.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Are you okay with me recording this conversation for my YouTube channel?
Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah.
Awesome. Go for it, mate. Let's hear it. Yours sounds very interesting.
Well, it was a surprise, and it was, as I explained to you, we were just coming home at night, round about midnight. And as I said in the message I sent to you, I just happened to be that night sitting in the back of the bus so that I was looking straight down the aisle towards, straight out through the windscreen.
Yep.
And the bus never stops until it gets to a junction. And all of a sudden it slowed down and stopped, and all the other blokes on the shift, they were all Americans, and people sat up and had a look to see what was going on, and here's this thing in the middle of the road. And I have to tell you, I am absolutely positive when I say it had stripes across it.
Yep.
So, and then I said it was sort of propped back and it was holding something in its claw, but I've thought about that, and I know there was something there, but I'm not really sure whether it was a bloody rabbit or not.
Okay.
Anyway, it then dropped forward and moved across to the side of the road, and it was gone. So the bus went, and one of the eggs yelled out and said, "John, what was that?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. It's just the biggest bandicoot I've ever seen in my life." And that was the end of it, except for out of the base there. The base has got its own power station, as you probably realise.
Yep.
And a very large power station. And one of the Australian blokes in it, I don't know if it was a week or two later, but he caught me. He caught up with me somewhere, maybe we were having lunch on day shift or something. And he said, he asked me, am I the person that saw this thing? And he said, "John, I was out at Ross River Station, which was about 80 miles east of Alice Springs, and he said, I saw the same thing out there." And that's about all he said. But he saw it out at Ross River Station.
Okay. What year was this, John, when you saw it?
Well, it was in the 70s.
Yep.
And I was trying to think to myself, was it the early 70s or the latter part of the 70s? And I can't remember. Suffice to say that it was in the 70s.
How many years were you up there in that particular base?
8 years.
8 years. So you were there through the Whitlam era?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was there
when Gough turned up with his press entourage?
Yeah, but before Gough turned up.
Yeah, okay, yep.
His defence minister, Les Bernard, and Les Bernard and his mate, bloody Senator Bishop, they turned up dressed like a couple of friggin' unionists straight off the building site.
Huh.
And anyway, it's a long story with that.
Yeah. Well, you'd be interested to know that the black fellas around Alice Springs, they've got a Dreamtime story there, which is for men only, and women can't talk about it. Women don't really know much about it. They just know that it exists. And is it the McDonald Ranges there? It is, isn't it?
Sure is. Yeah,
that whole area is a Thylacine Dreamtime story, basically.
Oh, is it really, eh?
Yeah, it certainly is. And you're not the first person or the last person, as you're aware, because you spoke to someone else who saw one in the general sort of area. How many hours out of Alice were you, do you think?
Well, the base is about... the base was, as I remember now, about 18 kilometres outside of Alice Springs.
Oh, so it's not that far.
No, it's not a long way.
Yeah, right.
But, it's a road that goes in and comes straight back out again. So
It's a dead end road,
you
yeah.
got you can't really negotiate to go out there.
Sure.
Did I in the message? Did I tell you about the fellow called Mike Popel, who was the wildlife ranger?
No, you didn't.
Ah, you won't believe this. Coincidentally, I had a shipment of Australian parrots coming in from a bloke down on Hume Highway, Liverpool, and he used to send the birds up to me. And remember the old tea boxes?
Yeah,
They were
T-chest,
still
yep.
around in those days with a bit of wire netting over the front.
Yep.
And when they arrived by plane, the local wildlife inspector, he had to go to the airport and pick them up. Then he had to bring them to my place, and he had to take them out of the boxes one by one and inspect them for sickness.
Yep.
And if one of them was sick, he said, "John, I'll just kill the lot if one of them's sick." I said, "Yeah, that's fair enough. Where you go?" The morning after, well, the night before, I was getting some birds in, and Mike Popel turns up finally with the birds. Anyway, we're sitting around, and Mike Popel was it turned out he's an Englishman, but he lived in Australia a long time. I said, "Mike, something interesting happened last night." And I told him. He said, "What?" I said, I saw this thing that had stripes across its body. And I told him about one of the Yanks asking me what it was, and me saying it was a big bandicoot or some bloody thing. He said, "I'm going home to get a book and I'll be right back." Dead set. So he goes home and he comes back with his book. He said, "John, hold this book, bend the pages, and just let them flick really quickly. And as soon as you see something, put your finger on it." So I did it, and my finger went bang straight onto the thylacine. He said, "God, I don't believe it." Then he said to me, "I used to be a similar wildlife inspector, ranger, whatever you want to call him, in Tasmania."
Oh,
And
yeah.
he said to me, and all I can do is just relate what he said. He said, "I saw tracks that we reckon were a thylacine tracks." Anyway, that's what he said to me.
Yeah, well, that's interesting you should bring up tracks, because have you ever heard of Dr. Eric Geiler?
No.
Well, Dr. Eric Geiler was basically at the University of Tasmania in the 1940s up until he retired in the early 90s, and then he passed away in about 2005, I think. Now, he went on several expeditions looking for thylacines back in the 50s and the 60s and stuff. Found prints on more than one occasion, plaster cast them, and there's a photo in a book of the plaster setting on the ground, and there's about 10 prints. They're rather large. Now, oddly enough, no one can get to see these print casts that Dr. Geiler cast, and he donated all of his work to the Tasmanian Museum in Hobart when he retired. And they are the most guarded secret that the museum has, pretty much. I tried relentlessly to get to see them, but they just weren't available when I went there, even though I'd pre-arranged to see them. And then when I spoke to Nick Mooney, who's the official voice of thylacine extinction in Tasmania, he told me, "Oh, well, they're only dog prints anyway, but we haven't got them available today." So Nick Mooney likes to claim that thylacines were only ever very small and they never got very big and all of this caper, but there's plenty of records talking about them being 6 foot long and, up to 72 pounds or something it was. One was, an adult male was about 7 feet long tip to tip and about 54 kilograms. So pretty decent size animal when you come to the alpha males. And we find these large 5-toed prints all over Australia, and I've found them in Tassie near my house, I've found them in South Australia, I've found them in Victoria, and I've found them in WA, and they all match up perfectly. They're all identical.
I forgot to tell you, if I can just break in
Yeah.
while I remember, because I'm bloody old now. I also had another fella come and approach me sometime later after the Ross River thing.
Yep.
And this fellow told me that his uncle reckoned he'd seen thylacine down on the Nullarbor Plain.
Yeah, that'd be right.
And that's all I know about that. That's all he said to me. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple found in the 60s in caves down there that were very, very fresh. But, you know, the experts did their carbon dating and they were at least 4,000 years old, yeah?
Oh, yeah, really?
Even though they had maggot casings next to them and goo under them, you know, which would indicate they're only a matter of weeks old.
Wow.
But anyway, the officials know more than we do. What would we know? We're just a couple of fellas, yeah?
Yeah, well, that's right. Well, when the bus stopped, I mean, this thing was sitting there in the full glare of high beam.
Yeah.
On the bus, because there was no traffic was ever going to come towards us.
Sure.
That hour of the night, and so it was really easy to see.
How big was it?
But I'll never forget. I'll never forget these bloody stripes across its body, and that's why the Yank asked me, "What is it?" Because of these stripes on its body, which was.
In comparison to a dog or a dog breed, how big was it roughly? You there?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember.
Clearly it was bigger than a bandicoot.
Yeah, it was like, mate, I'm talking about a long time ago. It was, I'm just thinking about it sitting there. It was to a degree, was leaning back on its hind quarter.
Yep.
But as I've said to people, as it moved, it just seemed to me to be, and I've said this plenty of times, it seemed to be heavier in the back than what it was up front.
And when you say heavier in the back, do you mean that it moved in a peculiar way, or?
No, because it only moved very slowly. I can't, it sort of took its time to get off the bloody road, as if the lights of the bus just didn't mean anything to it.
Did it look at you, or was it just staring out and ahead?
I can't say that it looked at us, no.
Yep, fair enough.
And
but it wasn't in any hurry.
No, it wasn't in any hurry. So I'd probably say that it was as big as a Labrador.
Yep.
Probably, or I don't know if it's as big as a German Shepherd.
But it was a medium-sized dog size.
It wasn't a little thing by any stretch.
So if it was a bandicoot, it was the biggest bandicoot you ever did see?
That's what I said. It's the biggest bloody biggest bandicoot I've ever seen in my life. And that's because it had the stripes on its body.
Yeah, and you thought bandicoot straight away.
Yeah, well, you know, the number of bandicoots I've ever seen in my life, and not a lot anyway, really. But that's what struck. And the Yanks, we talked about it going home in the bus, you know, from then on.
Yeah.
We had a bit of a chat before everyone dozed off again. But it was thrown around a bit about the stripes on his body.
Yep.
And that's about the story, I'm afraid to tell you. But
it's all right, mate. Historical sightings.
This all came about because I'm a big user of YouTube, watching YouTube stuff.
And you come across our channel, did you?
Yeah. And or somebody's, it must have been yours anyway. I thought, well, I might tell somebody my story.
Oh, that's good, mate, because now it's on the record.
Whether it means anything or it doesn't, I don't know.
Well, we don't get a lot of sightings from Northern Territory, but that's largely because it's so sparsely populated, I believe.
Yeah.
Because we still get recent ones. I had one last year up there, and I also had... You ever heard of a thing called a marsupial lion?
No, never.
So it's... A thylacine's evolved to fill the void of a wolf in the marsupial world. You know, it looks like a wolf, looks like a dog, but it feels that sort of niche in nature. Well, marsupial lion is the same sort of thing. It's the animal behind a lot of the old stories of the drop bear. It's
okay.
like a bear that jumps out the tree that's got big fangs and scares the crap out of people. But like all stories, they have an origin of truth to them, most of them.
Yeah.
There has been hundreds, if not thousands, of sightings of those things all over Australia as well over the years. And if you speak to a scientist, they'll tell you they've been extinct for 10,000 years. But if you speak to a farmer or a bushie or a ranger that's seen one when they're out chopping wood or something, they'll tell you they're alive and well and very, very scary. So, yeah, never say never is my motto, because
No, that's right. Yeah.
the minute you do, you narrow down the field of possibilities and you end up with egg on your face, you know?
Yes, you can't say anything's impossible, especially these days.
Yeah, that's it. How old were you at the time, mate, when you were working up there, if you don't mind me asking?
I went there in 1972.
Yep.
In 1972, I was 25. I would have been about 24 and a half when I started.
Yep.
And I left in right at the beginning of 1980.
Yep. You as a contractor up there, or you an employee?
No, I was an employee. I worked right inside the place.
Yep. I won't ask you what you worked on, because that'd probably be top secret anyway, wouldn't it?
I will neither confirm nor deny anything you may say.
Except for the Thylacine story.
That's it.
I like your style. Everything else is speculation, but that Thylacine was dead set.
Well, it was dead set, all right. It was really dead set.
Yep.
And because there's no other Australians on board on the bus. You know,
Yeah.
we were just. I was on a shift, just me and the Yanks
Yep.
at the time, because they were just starting to introduce Australians there,
Yep.
and
Nice of them,
so
eh?
there wasn't another Australian who could say, "Oh, it's bloody so and so" or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's about the best that I could do.
So you were it.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, John.
All right.
I appreciate you coming forward with your story. It doesn't matter how old it is, it's just another little piece in the puzzle, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. It's another piece of the puzzle.
The puzzle's
And,
been thrown in the ceiling fan, the pieces are everywhere, but we're slowly bringing it together.
Yeah. Especially when the other fella from the powerhouse told me that he'd seen one out at Ross River Station. I've been out at Ross River Station. I used to go out there with a mate of mine who used to had a cattle truck in Alice Springs in those days, and on my days off I'd go with him to pick up cattle, and I went out to Ross River a few times.
You ever go out to Yundamoo?
Out to where?
Yundamoo.
Out to the Aboriginal place?
Yeah.
No, I never went to Yundamoo. Why, you been there?
No, there's another sighting story that came out of the school kids there. The teacher was in the classroom telling all the kids about Australian animals, thinking he knew a lot, and he was talking about the Thylacine and said that it's extinct, and the kids said, "No, boss, that one's not extinct. He's still out here. We see that one."
Really? Wow.
So the kids knew more than the teacher did on that one. But that was, you know, that's an old story, that one, but that was up that way, Yundamoo, out in the territory. So
Yeah.
I think they're very solitary animals. I don't think they stay in a pack or even a family group very often. Maybe when the young need to learn how to hunt, they might hang out together, but it's that solitariness of them that makes them so elusive, because there's one here, there's one 3 miles over there, and somehow they find each other and keep populating the place.
There you go.
So
I was really taken aback when Mike Popel, the ranger, said that, you know, he worked down in Tasmania and he'd actually seen tracks. He had no reason to sort of bullshit to me about that.
yeah, and he was probably in shock that they're on the mainland, because the official narrative is they're not on the mainland and they haven't been for thousands of years. But you know, narratives are just another bit of a legend, aren't they?
Yeah, it's especially when flick the pages in the book, really quickly.
Yeah, and bang, there it
And
was.
Bang, stuck my finger in it.
Yeah.
And it was right on it. So
I call it the Thylacine extinction narrative because that's what it is.
that's it. You've probably got big heaps of stories, have you, from...
Mate, I got thousands of stories from all over Australia. I still get, they come in waves sometimes if there's a bit of media going on about it for some reason. A lot of people come forward and we get their stories.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no way that thing's ever been extinct on the mainland. No way at all, ever. I'd bet my last dollar on it.
Good on you. Well, we'd all love to see one.
Yeah, we would. We'd love to see one long enough just so we can prove that it exists, and not too long that we give it any grief. Just to keep it safe.
Well, that's right. Long as some bastard shooting foxes doesn't bloody...
Well, there's a couple of stories of doggers on the mainland that have shot them by accident and then panicked and hidden it because they didn't want to get in strife, understandably. Got a couple of stories like that from South Australia. Got a couple of stories like that from New South Wales too, out the back of Burke.
Yep.
So yeah, these things exist. They're very elusive and they keep us guessing most of the time. But...
just one question. Because I saw it at night, does that mean it's a nocturnal animal?
Well, most marsupials are basically nocturnal. They're known as a crepuscular animal, which means they hunt more at dawn and dusk than anything.
Okay.
But yeah, most sightings are at night. But I reckon about a quarter of all sightings are during the day. So I wouldn't say they're exclusively a nighttime hunter, but most of their prey is asleep during the day. So it would make sense that they would hunt during the day because they could sneak up on their prey while it's snoozing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, again, never say never. But, yeah, we had 3 guys on mountain bikes doing a ride through the Flinders Ranges, saw one in broad daylight. I've had hundreds of sightings. I was talking before about that Thylacine. I had an Aboriginal fella in Northern Territory last year who saw 2 of them, and they were black with white stripes. So... And I've also got reports of thylacines from the Nullarbor Plain in the 60s being black with white stripes as well. So they're not all fawn in colour and they're not all got stripes either. Some of them don't even have stripes. So yeah, it's always interesting to hear what people see and what they describe because...
Oh, that's right.
It just adds a bit more to the picture of, and you get some certain behaviours as well. One guy reported to me that he saw one hunting eels in a dam. It was eating freshwater eels in Victoria. Yeah, and another fella in Tassie said he saw one hunting eels as well in a river.
Wow.
So there's a lot of behaviours that you get from sightings, which is also useful info. So
yeah.
Awesome. All right, mate. Well, look, thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate you coming forward.
And I appreciate you ringing me as well. So...
Well, someone's got to keep a tally of all this stuff to leave behind for someone else to work with one day. Might as well be me.
That's good. So it should be. So
yeah.
I've got one thing to say to you.
What's that, mate?
Go back to work.
No, I'm on break still.
Okay.
4 o'clock.
Good on you.
All right. Thanks for your time.
And thank you very much. See you, mate.
No worries, John. Cheers.
See you.
Cut up.